Have you ever been so desperate to find the right person that you started asking God for signs? Like, Lord, if she wears a blue dress today, she's the one. Or if he texts me at exactly 11:11, then it's meant to be. But can I tell you something? That's not how God works. See, God doesn't play guessing games. He's not in heaven dropping cryptic hints like a divine escape room. He has a plan. He has a process. And he knows exactly how to align you with the right person. And today I'm going to break it down for you how God shows you your soulmate. Because some of why all have been chasing what you think is love while ignoring what God is actually trying to give you. So stop stressing. Stop settling. Stop searching for the wrong things when God is trying to prepare you for the right one. When it's God's time, it's God's time. And when it's God's person, you won't have to question it. Because when God shows you your soulmate, you won't just see it. You'll know let's talk about something that's going to challenge the way you think about relationships. Because I know a lot of people who are out here asking God, where's my soulmate? Why haven't you sent them yet? When will I meet the one? And it's a real question, an honest one. But what if I told you that the reason you haven't met your soulmate isn't because God hasn't prepared them, but because you aren't ready yet? See, when we think about a soulmate, we imagine someone who will walk into our life and magically make everything better. Someone who will love us unconditionally, support our dreams, complete our brokenness, and bring out the best in us. But let me challenge that idea right now. God doesn't bring you a soulmate to fix you. He brings you a soulmate when you've done the work to be whole on your own. Think about a puzzle. If you're missing pieces of yourself, pieces of healing, self-worth, faith, and purpose, what you're really asking is for someone to come and fill in your gaps. But God didn't design relationships that way. He doesn't bring you half a person expecting you to complete them. He won't send you to someone if you're still waiting for them to complete you. Two broken people don't make a whole relationship. Let's make it real. Have you ever seen someone who jumps from relationship to relationship? They get their heart broken. And instead of taking time to heal, they rush into the next one. And at first it feels good. New love always feels good. But after a few months, the same insecurities pop up. The same arguments start happening. The same wounds from the past start bleeding into this new relationship. And before they know it, they're back at square one asking, why does this keep happening to me? Because the truth is, you can't expect a relationship to heal what only God can fix. Let's say you have a broken arm. If you ignore it and keep using that arm like nothing's wrong, what happens? It doesn't just stay broken, it gets worse. And if it heals the wrong way, it becomes permanently damaged. Now imagine someone else coming into your life and leaning on that broken arm. The pain intensifies. It becomes unbearable. That's exactly what happens when you enter a relationship without healing first. See, God isn't holding back your soulmate because he's being unfair. He's waiting for you to be ready, not perfect, but ready. He's waiting for you to know who you are, to know your worth, to trust him more than you trust your feelings. Because when you don't know your worth, you'll settle for anyone who gives you attention. And God loves you too much to let you settle. A lot of people pray, God, send me someone who will love me unconditionally. But have you learned to love yourself the way God loves you? Have you learned to see yourself the way he sees you? Because if you don't, you'll find yourself depending on another person for validation. And let me tell you something, no human can carry the weight of making you feel whole. That's a burden too heavy for anyone but God. You know what's crazy? Sometimes God has already brought the right person into your life, but you didn't recognize them because you weren't in the right place to receive them. You were still looking for love based on your past wounds. You were still drawn to people who reminded you of your broken history. And when something healthy showed up, it felt boring because you had been conditioned to chase chaos. Let me give you a real life example. There was a woman who had been in toxic relationships for years. She kept attracting men who lied, cheated, and left her feeling unworthy. Then one day she met a good man, a man who was kind, patient, and treated her with respect. But guess what? She pushed him away. Why? Because deep down, she didn't believe she deserved him. She was used to pain, so love felt unfamiliar. She didn't recognize a blessing because she had only known battles. That's why God works on you before he brings someone else into the picture. Because if you don't heal, you'll sabotage the very thing you've been praying for. So instead of asking God, where's my soulmate? Maybe start asking God, what are you trying to do in me before you bring them? Are there areas of your life where you still need healing? Are there parts of your heart that still carry the wounds of your past? Are you secure in who you are? Or are you looking for someone else to make you feel valuable? Because God won't give you a soulmate to replace him. He wants to be your first love before he entrusts you with a partner. He wants you to find your identity in him so that when he brings the right person, you don't place them on a pedestal they were never meant to stand on. When you become the person God has called you to be, you won't have to chase love. You won't have to beg for attention. You won't have to settle for less than you deserve. Because when God brings you the right person, you will be ready to receive them. And that, my friend, is how God prepares you for your soulmate.we in a world that is obsessed with the idea of romance. Everywhere you look, from movies to music to social media, are being told that you need someone to complete you. That without the perfect partner, you are somehow unfinished, like a puzzle with missing pieces. And I get it. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? The idea that someone could walk into your life and suddenly everything makes sense. That the loneliness, the heartbreaks, the confusion, all of it just fades away because you found the one. But let me tell you something that might shake your perspective. Your soulmate is not meant to complete you. God never designed relationships to be about completion. They are about companionship. They are about two whole people coming together to complement each other, not to fix each other. Because let's be real, when you go into a relationship expecting someone to fill the empty spaces in your heart, you're putting a weight on them that no human was ever meant to carry. You're looking for them to do what only God can do. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a house with a weak foundation? It might look great on the outside. The walls might be beautifully painted. The furniture perfectly arranged, the decor just right. But if the foundation is unstable, if there are cracks at the base, then no matter how beautiful that house is, one strong storm can tear it down. That's exactly how relationships work. When your identity, your happiness, and your sense of worth are dependent on another person, your foundation is weak. Because what happens if they leave? What happens if they change? What happens if they fail to meet your expectations? Suddenly your world crumbles. Suddenly you feel lost. Suddenly you're questioning your value because the person you relied on to make you feel whole is no longer there. But God never intended for your wholeness to come from another person. See, when Adam was in the Garden of Eden, he wasn't sitting around feeling incomplete. He wasn't wandering through the trees saying, God, I just feel like something's missing in my life. No, he was walking in purpose. He was tending to what God had given him. He was whole before God introduced it into his life. And that right there is the key. God doesn't send you a soulmate to complete you. He sends you someone to walk with you in the purpose he's already set for your life. But if you don't know who you are before they come along, then you will start shaping yourself around them instead of standing firm in who God created you to be. Have you ever seen someone lose themselves in a relationship? Maybe they started out strong, confident, full of joy, passionate about their dreams. But the moment they got into a relationship, they became a different person. They started changing their values to match their partners. They started shrinking themselves to fit into someone else's expectations. They started compromising things they once stood firm on. Why? Because they were never whole to begin with. They went into the relationship looking for identity instead of bringing identity. And when you do that, you don't just risk losing the relationship, you risk losing yourself. Let me put it another way. Imagine you have an empty glass. If you enter a relationship with an empty glass, you will constantly be looking to the other person to fill you up. You'll rely on their compliments to make you feel attractive. You'll rely on their attention to make you feel valued. You'll rely on their love to make you feel worthy. But here's the problem. People are not meant to be your source. They can pour into you for a little while, but eventually their glass will run low too. And if both of you are constantly looking to each other to be filled, you'll both end up empty. But when you come into a relationship already full, when your identity is rooted in God, when your confidence is built on His love, when your purpose is secure in Him, then you aren't meeting someone to fill you. You're simply sharing the overflow of what God has already given you. And that kind of relationship, that's the kind that lasts. Because when two whole people come together, their love isn't built on neediness, it's built on purpose. Their relationship isn't based on what they can take, but on what they can give. So if you're waiting for your soulmate, stop asking, who will complete me? And start asking, am I already whole? Because the best relationships aren't made up of two broken halves coming together. They are built on two strong individuals rooted in God, walking side by side in purpose, love, and faith. And when God brings you the right person, you won't be searching for completion. You'll be celebrating the blessing of companionship. We live in a world where everyone wants things fast. Fast food, fast delivery, fast internet, everything is about speed. And somehow we've carried that same mentality into relationships. We think if we don't find the one by a certain age, something must be wrong. We start panicking, comparing ourselves to others, and wondering if God forgot about us. But let me tell you something, God is not in a rush. And that might frustrate some of you, because when you're waiting for something you desire, it feels like God is taking his time. It feels like he's delaying something that seems so simple, bringing the right person into your life. You see people around you getting engaged, getting married, having families, and you start wondering, God, did you skip me? Did you forget about my love story? But here's what you need to understand. God is more concerned with your season than your schedule. He doesn't work on your timeline. He works on his timing, and his timing is always perfect. Let me give you a real life example. Have you ever seen a fruit that was picked before it was ripe? Maybe you've bitten into a banana that was still green, or an avocado that was too hard. It doesn't taste the way it's supposed to. Why? Because it wasn't ready yet? That's exactly how relationships work. You can force something to happen before it's time, but it won't be what it was meant to be. It won't be as sweet. It won't be as fulfilling. It won't be as God-ordained as it could have been if you had waited. Because when God prepares something, he does it perfectly. Think about a chef preparing a gourmet meal. If you've ever watched someone cook a high-quality dish, you know they don't rush the process. They take their time, adding the right ingredients at the right moment. If you rush a steak, it comes out tough. If you bake bread for too little time, it's doughy in the middle. If you try to speed up the process, you ruin the result. And that's exactly what some of us do in relationships. We're so eager to be in love, so desperate to have what others have, that we settle for something that isn't ready. We rush into relationships that aren't built to last. We force connections that aren't from God. And then, when it falls apart, we ask God, why did this happen? But maybe God didn't cause the heartbreak. Maybe we stepped out of his timing. I know that waiting is hard. I know that when you desire something deeply, it can feel like God is being slow. But let me tell you something that will change your perspective. God is not withholding something good from you. He is preparing something great for you. Because when God brings two people together, it's not just about love. It's about purpose. It's about timing. It's about making sure that both people are ready for what he has planned. Let me ask you this. What if the person God has for you isn't ready yet? What if they're in a season of growth, of healing, of learning who they are? What if God is still working on their heart, just like he's working on yours? Would you rather have them now while they're still incomplete, or would you rather wait for them to be everything God has called them to be? Because here's the truth. Love is not just about finding the right person. It's about being the right person. So instead of focusing on when they will come, focus on who you are becoming. Are you growing in your faith? Are you stepping into your purpose? Are you learning how to love yourself the way God loves you? Because God's blessings come at the right time. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to force them. You don't have to manipulate the situation. When it's time, it's time. There's a story in the Bible about Abraham and Sarah. God had promised them a child, but years went by and it still hadn't happened. So instead of waiting on God's timing, Sarah tried to rush the process. She told Abraham to have a child with her servant, Hagar. And guess what? It created a mess. Because when you try to force God's promise in your own timing, you end up with problems you were never meant to deal with. But even though they rushed the process, God was still faithful. He still gave Sarah the child he promised, but in his time, not hers. And that's what I want you to hold on to today. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Just because it's taking longer than you expected doesn't mean God has forgotten. Just because your story looks different from someone else's doesn't mean it's not going to be just as beautiful. So trust the process. God is preparing something for you that is so much greater than what you could create on your own. Because when God writes your love story, it won't just be good, it will be exactly right at exactly the right time. We live in a world that is constantly telling us how love should look. Hollywood makes it seem like love is always effortless, like two people just lock eyes across the room, and suddenly they're meant to be. Social media shows us picture-perfect couples, making it seem like love is supposed to be easy, smooth, and without struggle. But let's get real. Love is not just about how you feel, it's about how you choose to show up every single day. See, feelings are great. Emotions are important. But if your love is built only on how you feel in the moment, then your relationship will be as unstable as the wind. Because the truth is, there will be days when love feels effortless, and there will be days when love feels like a fight. There will be moments when everything seems perfect, and there will be moments when you don't even like the person you're with. But real love isn't based on feelings, it's based on commitment. Let me give you an example. Have you ever started something with excitement only to lose motivation after a while? Maybe it was a workout plan. At first you were pumped. You bought new gym clothes, made a schedule, and told yourself, this time I'm really going to do it. And for the first few weeks, you were consistent. You showed up. You put in the work. But then life got busy. Maybe you had a rough day and skipping one workout didn't seem like a big deal. Then you skipped another. And before you knew it, that passion you had at the beginning was gone. Why? Because you were relying on motivation when what you really needed was discipline. Love works the same way. If you rely on passion alone to sustain a relationship, you'll quit when things get hard. If you only stay committed when it feels good, then the moment conflict arises, you'll start wondering if you made the wrong choice. You'll start questioning whether you're really meant to be together. But real love isn't about avoiding hard moments. It's about choosing to stay through them. Think about a tree. When a storm comes, a tree doesn't decide whether or not to keep standing based on how it feels in that moment. It stands because its roots are deep. It doesn't depend on external conditions. It depends on what's happening underground. The same is true in relationships. If your love is only built on chemistry, it won't last. If your love is only built on physical attraction, it won't survive. If your love is only built on how they make you feel, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Because love is not just about what you get, it's about what you give. And that's where a lot of people struggle. Because deep down, many of us have been conditioned to believe that love is about finding the right person instead of being the right person. We say we want someone who will be patient with us, but are we patient? We say we want someone who won't give up on us, but do we give up when things get hard? We say we want someone who will love us unconditionally, but do we love that way? Because here's the hard truth. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So instead of asking, where is my soulmate? Start asking, am I becoming the kind of person that the person I'm looking for is looking for? Because love isn't just about finding the right match, it's about becoming the right match. Let me give you another example. Have you ever seen two people who on paper should be perfect for each other, but somehow the relationship just doesn't work? Maybe they have the same interests, the same goals, the same values, but still something is off. That's because compatibility is not just about sameness, it's about shared growth. You can have all the things in common, but if you're not both willing to grow, the relationship will eventually stall. Growth means learning to apologize when you're wrong. Growth means choosing forgiveness even when it's hard. Growth means having the humility to say, I still have areas I need to work on. Because the strongest relationships aren't the ones where everything is easy, they're the ones where two people are willing to do the work. Think about a house under construction. When a builder starts working on a house, they don't just throw some bricks together and hope for the best. They lay a foundation. They reinforce the structure. They make sure it can withstand pressure before they start decorating the inside. And that's exactly what healthy love looks like. You can't just rush into something and expect it to last. You have to build it. You have to invest in it. You have to choose every single day to love, to serve, to stay, to grow. Because love is not just about how someone makes you feel, it's about what you build together. So if you're looking for love, don't just look for someone who makes your heart race. Look for someone who makes your soul grow. Don't just look for someone who excites you, look for someone who challenges you. Don't just look for someone who makes you feel good in the moment, look for someone who will walk with you through every moment, no matter how hard it gets. Because at the end of the day, the most beautiful love stories aren't the ones that started with fireworks. They're the ones that were built with faith, commitment, and a love that chooses to stay even when the feelings fade out. We live in a world where we often wear masks. Not the kind you physically put on, but the kind you use to hide your real self. We filter our pictures, we rehearse our words, we present the best version of ourselves to the world because deep down, we fear that if people really knew us, they might not accept us. And when it comes to relationships, this fear is magnified because love requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is terrifying. Let's be honest, most of us don't like feeling exposed. We don't like the idea of someone seeing our weaknesses, our insecurities, our flaws. So instead, we present what we think they will love. We shape ourselves into what we believe they will find attractive. We hide the parts of us that feel unworthy. But here's the problem. Love cannot fully exist where there is no authenticity. You cannot truly be loved if you are not truly known. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone try to impress others by being someone they're not? Maybe they exaggerate their interests to fit in. Maybe they pretend to be confident when in reality they're struggling with self-doubt. Maybe they say all the right things but never reveal what's actually in their heart. At first it might work. People might be drawn to them. But eventually the truth comes out. Because you can only pretend for so long before the real you shows up. And when that happens in relationships, it's devastating. Because if someone falls in love with a version of you that isn't real, then deep down you will always wonder, do they love me or do they love the person I pretend to be? And that question will haunt you. Because real love, the kind of love that lasts, is built on truth, not illusion. If you have to hide parts of yourself to be loved, then you are not truly loved. And let me tell you something, God never intended for love to be that way. Think about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Before sin entered the world, the Bible says they were naked and unashamed. That doesn't just mean physically, it means emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. They were fully seen and fully loved. But the moment sin entered, what did they do? They hid. They covered themselves because they were afraid of being exposed. And that's what many of us do today. We hide behind our achievements. We hide behind humor. We hide behind busyness. We hide behind walls we've built because of past hurt. But love, real God-ordained love, was never meant to be built on hiding. It was meant to be built on being fully known and still fully loved. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if they don't like the real me? What if I open up and they walk away? What if I get hurt? And those are valid fears, because the truth is, not everyone will be able to handle the real you. Not everyone will stay when they see your struggles. Not everyone will love you the way you need to be loved. But let me tell you something powerful. The right person will not be scared of your truth. The person God has for you won't run when they see the parts of you that aren't perfect. Because real love isn't based on perfection, it's based on connection. And connection cannot happen without authenticity. Let me give you an example. Have you ever tried talking to someone who just wasn't being real with you? Maybe they were polite. Maybe they were saying all the right things, but something just felt off. Like there was a wall between you. Like they were holding something back. That's because relationships require depth. Shallow love will never satisfy a deep soul. So if you're serious about finding your soulmate, you have to be willing to take off the mask. Because here's the truth, love that is built on a lie will always crumble. But love that is built on truth, that's the kind of love that lasts. Now, I'm not saying you should go tell every single detail of your life to the first person you meet. There's wisdom in guarding your heart. But there's a difference between guarding your heart and hiding your heart. One protects love. The other prevents love. And you don't want to block the love that God has for you just because you're afraid of being seen. So here's my challenge to you, be real. Be real about your struggles. Be real about your fears. Be real about your dreams, your values, your non-negotiables, because the person who is meant for you will love you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. And here's the best part, when you are fully known and still fully loved, that is the closest thing to the love of God that you will ever experience in human form, because God loves you exactly as you are. He doesn't need you to be perfect. He doesn't need you to perform. He sees every flaw, every mistake, every scar, and he calls you worthy. And the person he has for you, they won't need you to be perfect either. They will love you the way God loves you, fully, completely, without hesitation. So don't waste your time trying to impress the wrong people, because the right person, they're not looking for a perfect person. They're looking for a real one. Love is one of the most beautiful, powerful forces on earth. It has the ability to heal wounds, bring joy, and create a connection that is deeper than words. But real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that transforms, doesn't just happen. It requires something that many people overlook: intentionality. We live in a culture that treats love like an accident, like something you just fall into. You meet someone, the sparks fly, and suddenly everything is supposed to magically work out. But love isn't just about chemistry, it's about choice. Because if love were only about emotions, then it would never last. Feelings come and go, but the decisions you make, those are what build something that endures. Think about a garden. If you plant flowers but never water them, never pull the weeds, never take care of the soil, what happens? Eventually that garden dies. It doesn't matter how beautiful the flowers were in the beginning if they are neglected. They will wither. And the same is true in relationships. Love dies where there is no effort. Yet so many people enter relationships expecting them to flourish without putting in the work. They believe if they found the one, then everything should be easy. But let me tell you something, great relationships aren't found, they are built. And building something takes effort, time, and commitment. Let's take an example from everyday life. Imagine two people get hired at the same company on the same day. One of them is excited at first, but over time they stop putting in effort. They show up late, do the bare minimum, and expect to get rewarded just because they were hired. The other person, though, they show up early, take on challenges, learn new skills, and give their best every single day. Now, who do you think is going to grow in that company? Who do you think will see success? The one who puts in the work? It's the same in love. If you want a relationship that grows, that deepens, that withstands challenges, you have to invest in it. Because love isn't just a feeling, it's a daily decision to show up, to give, to serve, to communicate, to forgive, and to grow. Some people think that love is about finding the right person, but the truth is, love is about becoming the right person. And part of that means learning to be intentional. Intentional with your time, intentional with your words, intentional with how you show love. You see, love doesn't just happen to you, it's something you create. Think about the strongest relationships you've ever seen. Maybe it's your parents, your grandparents, or a couple you admire. I guarantee you their love didn't just survive by accident. It was built with intentional choices. They made the choice to communicate instead of shutting down. They made the choice to forgive instead of holding grudges. They made the choice to keep pursuing each other, even after the excitement faded. Because here's the thing, love will always require action. It's easy to say, I love you, but what does love look like in practice? Love looks like choosing kindness even when you're frustrated. Love looks like prioritizing your relationship, even when life is busy. Love looks like listening, truly listening, instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. And this kind of love, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because two people choose it over and over again. Let me give you another example. Have you ever seen a couple that's been together for decades and they still act like they're in love? Maybe they still hold hands, still laugh together, still look at each other with that spark in their eyes. That didn't just happen. It happened because they made a daily decision to invest in their love. See, some people think that when love fades, it means the relationship is over. But in reality, when love fades, it's usually because effort faded first. When you stop being intentional, when you stop showing love in actions, when you stop prioritizing your partner, that's when things start to fall apart. Because love doesn't stay alive by itself, it needs to be nurtured. And here's the most important part, intentionality starts before the relationship even begins. If you want to build a love that lasts, you have to start practicing these habits now. You have to learn how to communicate now. You have to learn how to resolve conflict now. You have to learn how to be intentional now. Because the habits you build in singleness will be the foundation of your relationship. So if you want a healthy, thriving love story, don't wait until you're in a relationship to start being intentional. Be intentional about your growth. Be intentional about your faith. Be intentional about becoming the kind of person who can love well. Because love isn't something you wait for, it's something you prepare for. And when the right person comes into your life, they won't just be looking for someone who makes them feel good. They'll be looking for someone who knows how to love with purpose, with commitment, and with intention. So start now, because the love you want won't happen by accident. It will happen because you built it on purpose. Love is one of the most powerful forces in the world, but too many people go into relationships expecting them to be perfect from the start. They believe in the idea of the one as if there is some magical person out there who will complete them, understand them effortlessly, and never disappoint them. But love isn't about finding someone who is already perfect. It's about choosing to grow together. Because the truth is, no one enters a relationship fully prepared for it. We all carry baggage. We all have wounds from our past. We all have areas where we need to mature. And if we believe that love is supposed to be easy, that it should just work without effort, then we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. Think about a diamond. Before it becomes something beautiful, it starts as a rough, unpolished rock. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't catch anyone's eye. It looks like just another stone. But when it goes through pressure cutting and refining, it becomes something valuable. And that's exactly how love works. It's not supposed to be perfect from the beginning. It's supposed to be refined over time. The strongest relationships don't come from two flawless people. They come from two people who are willing to grow. But here's the challenge. Growth is uncomfortable. See, it's easy to fall for the idea that love should always feel good. That relationships should always be fun, romantic, and effortless. But real love doesn't just make you feel good, it challenges you to be better. Think about it. Have you ever had a friendship or relationship where someone called you out on something you needed to change? Maybe they pointed out a habit that was hurting you. Maybe they told you the truth when you didn't want to hear it. At first, it probably felt uncomfortable. But later you realize that their honesty was what helped you grow. The same thing happens in love. A healthy relationship will expose your weaknesses, not to shame you, not to criticize you, but to give you the opportunity to grow. Because real love doesn't just accept you as you are, it also believes in who you can become. Let me give you a real life example. Imagine two people in a relationship. One of them struggles with patience. When things don't go their way, they get frustrated, snap at their partner, and shut down. Now they could say, this is just the way I am. Take it or leave it. Or they could recognize that love is calling them to grow. And that's where the choice happens. See, some people run the moment a relationship reveals something they need to change. They assume that if love brings challenges, then something must be wrong. But what if those challenges aren't a sign that you're with the wrong person? What if they are an invitation to grow? Because love, real love, will force you to confront the parts of yourself that need healing. And that's a good thing. Think about it this way. If you never went to the gym, never worked out, never challenged your muscles, would you expect to get stronger? No, growth only happens when there is resistance. The same is true for relationships. When love challenges you, it's not trying to break you, it's trying to build you. And if you're willing to lean into that process, you'll come out stronger. But here's where many people struggle. Growth requires humility. It requires the ability to say, I don't have all the answers. It requires the ability to admit, I still have areas I need to work on. It requires the ability to hear feedback without becoming defensive. And that is hard. Because we all want to believe that we're good partners. We all want to think that we're doing everything right. But if we're unwilling to acknowledge our weaknesses, then we will never grow into the kind of person who can love well. So here's the question, are you willing to let love refine you? Because if you are, then every struggle, every challenge, every hard conversation becomes an opportunity to become better. Better at communicating, better at listening, better at loving with patience, grace, and humility. See, love is not just about finding someone who makes you happy. It's about finding someone who makes you grow. And the best relationships, they aren't the ones that never have problems. They're the ones where two people look at each other and say, I'm not perfect, and neither are you, but I'm willing to grow with you. Because that's what real love is. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about two people saying, I'm not leaving just because it gets hard. I'm not walking away just because we have differences. I'm committed to becoming the best version of myself for you, for us, for our future. And when two people make that decision, love becomes something incredible. It becomes stronger than emotions. It becomes deeper than attraction. It becomes a foundation that nothing can shake. So if you're looking for love, don't look for someone who is already perfect. Look for someone who is willing to grow. Because the love that lasts isn't the love that starts perfectly. It's the love that keeps choosing to grow together. Love is a journey, not a destination. And yet so many people enter relationships expecting everything to fall into place effortlessly. They believe that once they find their soulmate, the connection will always be strong, the emotions will always be high, and the passion will never fade. But love, real love, isn't about constantly feeling a certain way. It's about choosing to stay connected even when you don't feel like it. Because here's the truth, feelings fluctuate, but commitment sustains love. Think about your favorite song. The first time you heard it, it probably hit you in a way that made you stop and listen. Maybe it gave you chills, maybe it made you emotional, maybe it made you dance. But after playing it over and over again, something changed. The song didn't lose its quality, but your emotional reaction to it shifted. It didn't hit quite the same way anymore. Now, does that mean the song is no longer good? Of course not. The song is the same, it's your familiarity with it that has changed. And the same thing happens in relationships. At the beginning, everything feels exciting. The person you're with is new. The chemistry is strong and you can't get enough of them. But over time, as the novelty fades, the emotions settle. That rush of passion that once came effortlessly now requires effort. And this is the moment where many people start to doubt. They think maybe this isn't the right person. They think maybe the spark is gone. They think maybe I need someone new to feel that excitement again. But what they don't realize is this, love doesn't disappear, it just requires a new level of intention. Because passion isn't something you just have, it's something you create. Imagine a fire. When it first starts, the flames burn high and bright. But what happens if you don't tend to it? If you don't add wood? If you don't protect it from the wind? If you don't feed it? Eventually it starts to die down. Does that mean the fire is gone? No, it just means you have to do something to reignite it. And the same is true for love. Too many people abandon relationships because they think the fire has gone out. But in reality, they just stop feeding the fire. Because connection isn't automatic, it's intentional. Think about it. When you first fall for someone, you naturally invest in them. You ask questions. You listen, you go out of your way to make them feel special. But as time passes, life gets busy. Routine sets in. The effort you once put in starts to fade. Not because you don't love them, but because you stop being intentional about showing it. And this is where relationships either thrive or die. Not because of some dramatic betrayal. Not because the love isn't real, but because one or both people stop choosing connection. So how do you keep the fire alive? You prioritize connection, even when it's not convenient. You have deep conversations, even when it's easier to just scroll on your phone. You express love, even when you assume the other person already knows how you feel. You plan dates even when life is hectic. You choose kindness even when you're frustrated. Because the difference between couples who grow apart and couples who grow together isn't luck, it's intention. Let me give you an example from everyday life. Imagine two people have a friendship. In the beginning, they text every day, hang out often, and make each other a priority. But over time, life gets in the way. One stops reaching out, the other assumes they're too busy. Conversations become short and surface level. And before they know it, the friendship that once felt effortless now feels distant. Did something bad happen? No. They just stopped choosing connection. And the same thing happens in relationships. Love doesn't disappear overnight. It fades when small moments of disconnection go unchecked. When I love you is replaced with silence. When affection is replaced with routine. When communication is replaced with assumption. And if you don't intentionally close those gaps, distance will grow where love used to be. But here's the good news. If you feel disconnected, you can always reconnect. Because love isn't just something you feel, it's something you build. And the strongest relationships, they aren't the ones that never struggle. They're the ones where two people say, I will keep choosing you no matter how busy life gets. I will keep showing up for you even when emotions fluctuate. I will keep fighting for connection even when it takes effort. Because the most beautiful love stories aren't written in the moments of passion. They are built in the moments of commitment. So don't fall for the lie that love should always be effortless. The love that lasts is the love that is intentionally nurtured. And when two people are willing to do that, the fire never goes out. Love is not about finding someone who completes you. It's about becoming whole within yourself first so that when you meet the right person, you don't expect them to fill in the empty spaces. You come as someone who is already full, ready to share your love, not just take it. Too often, people enter relationships looking for something that only they can give themselves. They believe that when they meet the one, all their insecurities will fade, their happiness will increase, and their lives will suddenly feel complete. But the truth is, if you are not fulfilled on your own, no relationship will ever feel like enough. Imagine a person holding an empty cup. They are desperate for a drink of water, but instead of filling their own cup, they keep extending it to someone else, saying, please fill me up. Give me happiness. Give me validation. Make me feel worthy. Now, imagine two people both holding full cups. They meet, and instead of taking, they pour into each other. They give without desperation because they are already whole on their own. Which of these relationships do you think will last? The reality is, no one else can make you feel valuable if you don't first believe in your own worth. You see this all the time. Someone gets into a relationship and for a little while they feel amazing. They feel loved, they feel important, but over time cracks start to show. They begin to feel insecure. They start doubting the other person's feelings. They need constant reassurance just to feel okay. Why? Because they never learned how to love themselves first. Let me give you an example. Have you ever met someone who is constantly worried that their partner is going to leave them? Maybe they check their phone all the time, looking for signs of disinterest. Maybe they feel jealous every time their partner talks to someone else. Maybe they overanalyze every conversation, looking for hidden meanings. Now, is that because their partner is actually doing something wrong? Most of the time, no. It's because the person never developed security within themselves. When you don't feel like you're enough, you will always be afraid of losing love. Because deep down, you don't believe you deserve it. And here's what happens, that insecurity, that fear, that constant need for reassurance, it puts pressure on the relationship. Instead of growing together, the relationship starts feeling like a burden. Instead of love flowing freely, it starts feeling like an obligation. And over time, that pushes love away. Because here's the hard truth. No one can convince you that you are worthy of love if you don't already believe it yourself. That's why your relationship with yourself is the most important one you'll ever have. Because if you don't love yourself, you will always struggle to receive love from someone else. You will always question it. You will always doubt it. You will always feel like you need to prove yourself just to keep it. But when you love yourself first, you don't depend on someone else to make you feel whole. You don't enter relationships out of desperation. You enter them out of abundance. You don't seek validation. You give love freely without fear. You don't chase people. You attract the right ones because your confidence is magnetic. Think about the strongest, healthiest relationships you've ever seen. I guarantee you the people in them didn't enter the relationship expecting to be saved. They came in already knowing their worth. They didn't need their partner to constantly remind them that they were lovable. They already believed it. And because of that, their love was free of fear, free of insecurity, and free of desperation. So how do you become that kind of person? How do you build a love that isn't dependent on someone else making you feel good? It starts with the way you see yourself. It starts with learning to love who you are before you enter a relationship. It starts with doing the inner work, healing from past wounds so you don't carry them into new love, building confidence so you don't rely on someone else to give it to you, developing emotional security so that love can add to your life, not define it. Because here's what happens when you don't do that work. Even if you find an amazing person, the relationship will always feel unstable. Because if your happiness depends on them, then any small change in their mood, their actions, or their words will shake you. But when you have built your own confidence, your own fulfillment, your own inner strength, you won't settle for love that isn't right. You won't stay in toxic relationships because you're afraid of being alone. You won't accept bare minimum effort because you know you deserve more. You won't tolerate mistreatment because you understand your worth. Because when you love yourself first, you set the standard for how others should love you. And when you come into a relationship already full, you aren't looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to complement you. You aren't searching for someone to give your life meaning. You're looking for someone to share the meaning you already have. And that is the kind of love that lasts. Because it's not built on neediness, it's built on strength.